So today I'm going to present to you the What Occupiers Want survey. This is a survey that Cushman and Wakefield does every couple of years in partnership with Current Global, where we are reaching out to corporate real estate decision makers to ask them questions around what are the key challenges, what are the key strategic drivers, what is the view about the location, portfolio, and workplace strategy. As you see, there is a very broad sample across around the world, and in terms of industries and sectors, we have a very good coverage. This year, we had more than 230 respondents that they filled the survey. They represent more than 8 million employers globally and more than 34 million of square meters of office space. So very good representation in terms of what is the pulse of the market. Why this is important? This is important especially for us as consultants to understand what occupiers want, but also for landlords and developers to see where is the market heading towards, what is coming in terms of the product that they should be offering for the occupiers. Of course, when we look at specifically for Athens, we have a very good view about the corporate real estate market in Athens in terms of what is the current situation by occupier, by sector, by sub-market. Of course, we cover here, we don't need to show the names, we have the data, but it's confidential data. Our Cushman and Wakefield and Proprius team here in Athens, led by Nikki Simbouras, has one of the best data sets in terms of the current situation of the corporate real estate. But what is very important with these studies, we want to look forward. We don't want to look just at the current state, but we want to understand where the market goes. So I have very limited time, so I'm going to go very fast. I'm going to share with you 5 key learnings from the survey. So the first one is that cost is the most important decision driver for real estate decisions, as you see around the world. And of course, there is an interplay between cost and talent in terms of how occupiers are taking decisions. Cost becomes very, very important in the decisions they take around real estate. Very interesting to see that in EMEA, we have talent as number one. Over the last 10 years, we have been doing this survey. There was an interplay between talent and cost, and the last 4 to 5 years, cost became number one. What is also very interesting is to look at the previous survey where ESG was number 4, and this time actually dropped below 5, which is disappointing. But at the same time, when we spoke to occupiers, they told us that what has happened is that ESG became business as usual. So it's part of the things that they are doing in any case, so it doesn't have to be on top of the priorities. So we hope that's true in terms of the importance of ESG. Of course, it's not that cost is a problem, it's uncertainty. If we look at the underlying drivers of cost, you will see that there is uncertainty in terms of the cost around changes in portfolio. There is uncertainties about the role of the new office. There is also uncertainty about the return to office. We know that a lot of companies are asking employees to come back to the office. And if they do that, that means that they need more space. Some companies, they have been unsuccessful to bring people back, so there is a lot of uncertainty about how much space we need for the offices. And then finally, a lot of uncertainty about the current political and economic outlook. We all know what is happening in the world. We're not going to discuss about it now, but that brings a lot of uncertainty in terms of the for the decision makers. The second key takeaway is that we see that the corporate real estate teams, they are moving closer to people. So if you see at the pie chart on the left side of the slide, you will see that majority or a big portion of the corporate real estate teams, they are reporting to the finance teams. And that's also what explains the fact that cost is very important. But what is very interesting is what we see on the pie chart on the right side in terms of the teams that they have changed the reporting lines over the last 2 years. A big portion of these teams, they have actually shifted to reporting to the HR. So again, it shows how the people part becomes more important and is also in line with the strategic drivers when we talk about the interplay between cost and talent. And of course, this is reflected on the metrics that are used when the corporate real estate teams are measuring the performance of the portfolios. Financial metrics are very important. Of course, there are other metrics around workplace, workflows, experience, but there is a big, I would say, big distance to cover to make these metrics more important in order to align with the agenda around cost and talent. The third key takeaway is the fact that we see that more and more companies are becoming more flexible in terms of the recruiting on the location strategy. So you see that more than 60% of the occupiers, they have adopted more flexible location hiring strategies. So you will see that, for example, about 20% they're using hybrid country level hiring, which means that within the same country, they open positions wherever they have offices, and they hire the same roles across the country. And we've been discussing this for 4 or 5 years now. When I was saying that to my colleagues here in Athens, they were saying, oh, Greece is different, Athens is different culture, this is not going to work. But we see that this is happening. We know companies at the moment that they have offices in Athens, and they are recruiting in Lamia, in Thessaloniki, in Chania, in Volos for remote positions. So we see that this is something that it is happening, not just at the country level, but also at the international level, especially within the EU. It helps to be within the common economic zone, as well as globally, but less often, as you see, is, the kind of fully remote is around 11%. So that flexibility that we see in terms of the occupiers also translates in terms of how much space the occupiers need. So the fourth key learning, key takeaway, is that we see that we have experienced quite significant downsizing over the last 5 years in terms of the portfolios of the occupiers, and we have been working in a lot of projects globally to help right-size the portfolios. And you can see more than 60%, they have reduced the portfolio over the last 2 years, with majority reduced by less than 25%. But what is important is that we see that this has peaked now, and a lot of the companies now, they are, as you see, a big portion, 40%, more than 40%, they believe that they have finished with the downsize, and now they move to BAU, business as usual. So we see that there is a, let's say, stabilization in terms of the right sizing. Still, there is a big percent, that's 30% of occupiers that are still planning to downsize further, but at a less, less rate. And of course, this is, the footprint right sizing together with the increased return to office policies that we see there happening at the moment has shifted the occupancies. So we see actually increasing occupancy. So on the left part of the slide, you will see that there have been recent changes in office attendance, that they shifted to less flex. And we've seen that with big corporates around the world, in the banks, in the technology companies, JP Morgan, Meta, Amazon, they have asked people to be 5 days back to the office. And when we look at the occupancy levels, historically, especially the last 5 years post-COVID, we were around 40 to 45% occupancy. Now we moved up to 60%. So we see that actually that shifts the occupancy of the buildings. And then the final fifth key takeaway is that there is a massive opportunity for the landlords to offer more than just a quality box to the occupiers. So you will see here that when we ask the occupiers what they expect from the landlords, they're not just expect a quality box, but they expect together amenities, services, community events, and actually you will see that more than 40% they are willing to pay a premium to get this. So there's a big opportunity here for the landlords to see how they can make their offering more attractive to occupiers. So just to quickly sum up, 5 key takeaways. The first one, cost reigns, talent very strong, but uncertainty is what drives everything. CRE teams are moving closer to people, but still there is a big room for the metrics to follow that. We see increase in the flexible location hiring around the world. The downsizing has peaked. So we see that there is a stabilization in terms of the floor areas. And then finally, there is a big opportunity for the landlords to step up as occupiers expect more from the landlords, not just a building, but more like as a service, real estate as a service. So I believe now we understand with what occupiers want, we understand what drives the decisions in real estate for the occupiers. There has been a lot of talk the last couple of days, as long as general, that how we can bring more investment to Greece in real estate, how we can bring more investment in Athens, how we can actually make the occupiers and the companies to come and invest here. And we want to go beyond just the golden visas, right? We want to bring big companies to come here and invest so they can really drive economic activity, provide employment opportunities for our people, and then drive overall the market. So we've seen that there are two key drivers in terms of the decisions for real estate. The first one is cost, and the second one was talent. And actually in EMEA, the first one was talent. So in terms of the costs, Greece is relatively competitive to Western Europe and let's say the US, the developed markets, probably in the same range like the Central and Eastern European countries. When we look at talent, the market is very competitive, it's very challenging, right? So, and as we know, the talent will go where the opportunities are, and the companies will go where the talent is. So it's the chicken and the egg. How can we start this virtuous cycle? And there is an opportunity, and that's why I have this question here. How can we utilize the cities, and how can we make the cities more attractive to bring more talent into our cities? And of course, the answer is not by increasing the density in already quite saturated urban centers and wrapping that up with a green package of sustainability. We can do much more. We need to learn from our European friends. We need to think about how we can make our cities more accessible. We can make our cities more inclusive, and how we can also make our cities more, I would say, aesthetically pleasing. We've seen from the cities across Europe that they have addressed these issues for more than decades, like many decades now, and they are keeping improving. I've been in the last 10 years in London. London, which has one of the best public transit systems, the last 5 years, they completely transformed the city with bike lanes. The city is very, very different from how it was like 5 years ago. So they keep improving the cities, even if they are much better than where we are today. So really important here to think about how we can make our cities more attractive, how we can actually think about bringing, improving the public transit system, more green space, more placemaking, more, I would say, think about the architecture of the city. And it's important to talk about the beauty, right? I mean, our ancient colleagues, they saw us what beauty is, and this is what we came up with. So I think we need to think about how it's important to talk about the typology, the harmony in the cities. And I think the next talk will talk about it, which is follow-up to what I'm presenting today. But I want to close with a much more positive, let's say optimistic, let's say close. Of course, we can look at this picture and we can say that there is no way we can get worse than that. At least we know that this is probably where we are at the bottom. And there is a massive opportunity to see how we can make this image much better. So again, I think it's a great opportunity. We need to start talking in the public dialogue about the architecture of the cities. I'll close here. If you have any questions, please reach out to Nikki and myself. We're happy to answer any questions and, of course, help you with any questions you may have. Thank you.